Hello and welcome to The Sharpening. I am your host, Josh Peck. Tonight we welcome a very special guest to the show to talk about a topic of ever-increasing importance, given the times we live in and the state of the world today. Doc Marquis was raised in an Illuminati family for 20 years and was a seventh-generation witch before coming to know Jesus Christ. Since that time, he has been speaking out about the deceptions promulgated in our world today by such parties as the Illuminati, as well as others. He has been on more than 1,000 radio shows, appeared on TV shows such as Oprah, Hard Copy, Geraldo Rivera, 2020, Inside Edition, and dozens of others, and he's even agreed to do a major project with the History Channel coming up later this year. Doc Marquis is also in the process of finishing a DVD series called The Secrets of the Illuminati. For more information, you can visit Doc's website at www.itsagodthingproductions777.com, and that's all lowercase, no apostrophes. The sevens are numbers, you don't have to spell them out. And you can also find him on Facebook. You can contact him through his email at docmarquis777@yahoo.com. And if you wish to contact him personally, Doc's even been willing to offer his phone number, which is 402-228-9476. Doc Marquis' personal testimony could easily fill the time of this entire show, but tonight, and over the course of at least the next week, he is here to share with us a very important message. So with that, I am incredibly humbled and honored to welcome to the show Doc Marquis. Doc, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, Josh. How have you been doing?
Oh, I've been doing fantastic. I've really been looking forward to this show.
Well, I think you're going to really get a kick out of this one. This is something I've been working on for a while because, you see, a lot of people have been asking me to try to make sense of what's going on nowadays, especially with, shall we say, the disastrous government Obama's been turning us into.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and, I remember one time I explained to someone, I said, in order to understand the present, we have to go into the past so we can understand what's going to happen tomorrow.
Wow, yeah, absolutely. It kind of brings me back to Ecclesiastes. The thing that hath been is the thing that shall be and all that.
And before we can even begin to understand what's going on today, because all these things that's leading to the destruction of America are through the hands of the Illuminati. And if we're going to understand all that, then we have to go into the past to see where it all began to begin with, and then we're going to line it all up with the prophecies of the scriptures.
Wow. That's awesome. That's why I'm so excited about this show. And I just normally in these shows I'll have a set of questions prepared, but this time I just decided to not do that because I want to hand the show over to you. I want you to go through and lay out in detail everything you want to put out there, and I just want to give the show to you for this whole show, and I'm just gonna let you go for it, man, because I've been really excited to hear this. So it is all yours.
Well, okay. Let's start, as it says, we're going to have to go into the past. We're going to have to really go into the past. We're going to have to go back to the year 1848. And that date, for historians, should ring a bell because we're going to be talking about a person known as Karl Marx, which I know you've heard of. Mm-hmm. Karl Marx, according to, shall we say, the history books, was a German philosopher, economist, sociologist, historian, journalist, and revolutionary socialist. Okay? Right. Now, his work in economics laid the basis for the current understanding of labor and its relationship to capital. And to this very day, it has influenced much of subsequent economic thought. So his writings had a very profound effect. Now, I say his writings, but hold that thought for a second. Okay. The particular books that he's noted for writing, which was published back in February 21st, 1848, is known as the Communist Manifesto. It was written by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Now, the Communist Manifesto contains Marx and Engels' theories about the nature of society and politics. Now, in their own words, and I think this is the best way to sum up, shall we say, the core of their belief. Karl Marx stated, the history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggle.
Wow.
Yeah. So, in that book, it briefly features their ideas for how the capitalist society of the time would eventually be replaced by socialism and then eventually by communism. So he was another one of those people. What's interesting about Karl Marx? He came from a wealthy middle-class family.
Oh, really?
Yes, he did.
Huh.
And so let's not think that these people who write about the proletariat or, the lower class on the social scale, that they were one of them. No, they never were. They were puppets of the Illuminati.
Wow.
Now remember, as I said, Karl Marx, excuse me, in 1848 had his book, The Communist Manifesto. But what most people don't know, and I'm going to be polite about this, he borrowed, and I'm saying borrowed now, so heavily from Clinton Roosevelt's book, Science of Government Founded on Natural Law, which was written 7 years before his in 1841, that it borders on plagiarism.
Wow.
Yeah, so in essence, excuse me, communism was not Marx's idea, but it wasn't Roosevelt's either. You see, as I stated, Roosevelt wrote his book in 1841, Science of Government Founded on Natural Law, and I have a very, very rare copy of that in my possession. I'll be bringing that to the Prophecy Summit in Orlando, Florida. I was telling you about, being put on by Prophecy in the news. Yeah. Right. I will be bringing that very rare copy for everyone to look at.
Oh, wow. Yeah, people will want to see that.
Oh, yeah. Now, when you look at Roosevelt's book, it's built upon 12 major premises, okay?
Okay.
Now, here's the rub of it. We look at those 12 premises, and when we go even further back in history to between the years 1773 and May 1st, 1776, that was the time when Dr. Adam Weishaupt was writing his 7-part plan towards the creation of a new world order and all the other things that went along with creating what became known as the Order of the Illuminati.
Wow.
When we look at Weishaupt's 7-part plan towards the creation of a new world order and compare it to Roosevelt's book and to Karl Marx's book, you can see they stole their material straight from Dr. Weishaupt, because in that 12 points, as I said, that was found in Roosevelt's book, among other things, he called for the abolition of private property, the abolition of all rights of inheritance, the abolition of religion, the abolition of the family as the basic social unit. Now, we take just those four, we compare it to the 7-part plan of Weishaupt. He wrote the abolition of all private property, the abolition of all inheritance, the abolition of all religion, the abolition of the family.
Wow.
That's a direct rip-off. Those two people, Roosevelt and Marx, stole directly from Dr. Weishaupt in his writings of the Order of the Illuminati. So you see, in essence, communism was not the idea of Marx or Roosevelt. It was the plan, and always has been the plan, of the Order of the Illuminati. Right. Now, this is important to understand because you're going to see, as we go through this very long presentation, how the 7-part plan fits in with every sort of governmental society you could possibly come up with. Wow. It is absolutely brilliant the way it was put together. Now, the first person we need to go to, we're going to visit a person who you must be familiar with. His name was Vladimir Lenin.
Sure.
Now, for those people who don't know their history, or for those people who are so young they haven't learned their history yet, Vladimir Lenin was a Russian revolutionist who borrowed heavily from Karl Marx's manifesto, his Communist Manifesto. And so you and I both know that that's just a ripoff of Dr. Adam Weishaupt's work of the Illuminati.
Uh-huh.
Now, Lenin, his political ideas are summed up in that everything he had done was for the proletariat, the poorest class of working people.
Right.
And for those of you who don't know, the proletariat, they have no capital nor means of production, so they must work in order to earn a living. That's just how it is. Mm-hmm. So anyone who's ever held a job and worked for someone else, in one way or another, you're a proletariat. Now, Lenin would be constantly going out and putting out his rhetoric, on socialism. He'd be seen in, the Red Square in Russia and other places. And eventually, Lenin himself garnered the attention of the Tsar's secret police.
Wow.
Yeah, and shortly after that happened, Lenin was labeled as a dangerous radical socialist. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, you get the attention of the Russian police, you're going to end up in exile eventually.
Right.
Let's face it, and Lenin, of course, he was exiled to Siberia. We all know everyone ended up in Siberia. He was exiled there from 1897 to 1900. Now, he was considered an extremist because of his initial support and his writings on expanding his Marxist theories, which were a direct threat to the very core of Tsardom, or, to the ruling Tsars.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. He was right against the monarchy, the Russian kings and queens. He didn't want them. Plus, and this is something a lot of people don't seem to know, or they just seem to forget. Part of his exile was really justified because, you see, his brother, Alexander, had been executed for his part in a failed plot to murder Tsar Alexander III.
Oh, geez.
So it looked bad on Lenin, considering that now he decided to show up and start stirring up trouble. Yeah, so, the Russian secret police, they weren't going to take this.
Right.
So they made sure he was tucked away. Now, interesting enough, let's see, he was released in 1900. It was 5 years later. That would have been January 22nd, 1905, which history would call Bloody Sunday. This would be the Russian Revolution of 1905. Now, it was on that date that unarmed Russian strikers, along with their families, gathered in St. Petersburg, where they eventually marched upon the Winter Palace of Tsar Nicholas II and presented him with a petition. Now, you have to understand, this was a common practice in which people would present to their Tsar, a petition, and he would promise to fix the problems. It was a very peaceful way of addressing your grievances. Now, part of the grievances, that they wanted to present, there was the agrarian problems, the nationality problems, the labor worker problems, and, the educated class problems, And so they marched upon the Winter Palace. And this was a very peaceful demonstration. I cannot understate this. It was a peaceful demonstration in which religious icons and other symbols were being led to the Tsar's Winter Palace. But the problem was, political groups such as, the Bolsheviks, the Mensheviks, and the Social Democrats, they disapproved of these marches because it lacked political demands. But the people, they were only interested in improving their quality of life.
Right.
But there was one other problem here. At the time, and this was, remember, January 22nd, 1905, no one knew that Tsar Nicholas was not in residence at his Winter Palace. He wasn't there.
Huh.
And so, now, this caused a very bad and unexpected turn of events. You see, more than 10,000 troops had been ordered to halt the columns of marchers before they reached the Palace Square. But the reaction of government forces was inconsistent and confused. And you see, because of this, soldiers began firing into the crowds. Cossacks and regular cavalry made charges using their sabers or trampling the people. And in the end, more than 1,000 people were killed or wounded.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's why it was called Bloody Sunday. And because of that, a strike movement began to spread throughout Russia. And if the estimates are correct, it was about 500,000 people refused to work. Now, the Tsar Nicholas II, he was completely out of favor with the people, even though he had nothing to do with Bloody Sunday. As I said, he wasn't even at the Winter Palace at the time.
Huh.
So what had happened? The country was replaced with a constitutional monarchy, much like they have in Great Britain. Mm-hmm. And the Tsar became the head of state, or basically a figurehead, if you would. And it would be the next year, in 1906, that the State Duma was introduced and became Russia's first elected parliament.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we have to understand that Bloody Sunday actually had a purpose, but let's just put that on the back burner for now, because we have to go to another person known as Leon Trotsky. Now, history records Trotsky as a Russian Marxist revolutionary and theorist. He was also a social politician, and the founder and first leader of the Red Army.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But what most people also don't know is that he was also a member of the Illuminati.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And, excuse me, just like other troublemakers or dissidents of his day and age, what was that? That was in January of 1889. Trotsky had been arrested and spent 2 years in prison before his trial. Now, it would be, that was, I think, almost 10 years later. Yeah, almost 10 years later, in 1900. Again, here's the magic word. He was exiled,
Mm-hmm.
in Irkutsk in the Irkutsk region of Siberia until 1904. So he was exiled for 4 years, and he would later secretly return to Russia, but that was in next year in February of 1905, and he started an underground printing press in Kiev. Now, it was only, I think 3 months later in May, he had been betrayed by a secret police agent, and he fled to Finland.
Oh.
Yeah. So Trotsky was basically around the same time of Lenin, and causing all this type of problems, like Lenin, though they haven't met as of yet. So just remember that May of 1905, Trotsky left, he ran, and fled to Finland. Now, we have to go to another person right now in order to understand this picture.
Okay.
I'm sure by now, you've heard of the American banker Jacob Schiff?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Jacob Schiff. He was an American banker, businessman, and member of the Illuminati.
Wow.
Now, from his base on Wall Street, he was the foremost Jewish leader from 1800 to 1920, and that actually later became known as the Schiff era. Those 40 years became known as the Schiff era. Now, as the head of the New York investment firm of Kuhn Loeb and Company, he had raised huge war loans to Japan. Excuse me, and this is important because, you see, there was the Japanese and Russian War of 1904. Mm-hmm. Because of Jacob Schiff's wartime loans, the Japanese were able to launch a stunning attack against the Russians at Port Arthur. In the following year, the Japanese decimated the Russian fleet, and in 1905, Jacob Schiff received the Mikado Medal, the second order of the Treasure of Japan, in recognition of the important role he played in that campaign. Without his money, Japan would never have been able to attack and decimate the Russian wartime fleet as they had. Wow. Now this is where it gets interesting. Now, everyone thought, and history would record that this was a great and noble deed on Jacob Schiff's part. Mm-hmm. But the question that really must be asked is, what was Jacob Schiff's true intentions for giving out such a huge loan to Japan? Remember, this guy represented Kuhn Loeb and Company. He was a businessman and a powerful banker. He doesn't do things like that just for the sake of the common good.
Right.
There had to have been something in it for him, and it had to have been something big. Now, two things is really behind what he did. First, by giving all that money to Japan, it would begin to help weaken the Tsarist rule over Russia. Remember, this is 1904. It's not 1905 yet. Mm-hmm. Bloody Sunday. But the most important reason was the Baku noble oil fields in Russia. Mm. Now, what are the Baku noble oil fields, and what has that got to do, with the Illuminati or anything else? Again, we'll get to it. Yeah, because right now it's coming up to 1905, where Leon Trotsky, remember, he fled from Russia to Finland. Uh-huh. He would travel extensively, touting his Marxist communist views. And in 1916, Trotsky was expelled from France. But this is where it gets interesting. He then came to the United States under very mysterious circumstances. Now, he was brought over, and it seems no one knows who the person was. I can tell you who it was. But a lot of people have been trying to figure out who was it that brought Leon Trotsky from France over to America. His patron was the same Jacob Schiff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You see, he remained in New York, Trotsky, for several months while writing for a Russian socialist paper called the, how do you say that again, the Novy Mir, or New World. New World Order, exactly. Right. While at the same time, he would be given revolutionary speeches at mass meetings in New York City. Huh. And so all this is going on. It's right around the 1917, and by the time, what was that, March 15th, 1997, Tsar Nicholas II was forced to abdicate his throne. Uh-huh. 8 days later, on March 23rd, a mass meeting was held at Carnegie Hall to celebrate the abdication of Nicholas II, which meant the overthrow of Tsarist rule in Russia. Thousands of socialists, Marxists, nihilists, and anarchists attended to cheer this, huge event. because this was put on by Trotsky. And these people have been working for almost a dozen years to overthrow the Russian monarchy. Now, what was that? On the following day, what was that? It was published on page 2 of the New York Times. A telegram was sent from Jacob Schiff, which was to be read before, that audience.
Right.
And he wrote to the newspapers, "Will you say for me to those present at tonight's meeting how deeply I regret my inability to celebrate with the friends of Russian freedom the actual reward of what we had hoped and striven for these long years." Now, you got to listen to the wording carefully here. The actual reward of what we had hoped and striven for these long years. Now, on the surface, it sounds like he's talking about Russian independence, correct?
Correct.
But remember, Schiff was a member of the Illuminati, and the Illuminati wanted something in Russia, and they wanted it bad. They wanted it so bad that, according to the 7-part plan of the Order of the Illuminati, one of the writings calls for, the abolition of all monarchs.
Oh.
And that's what Tsar Nicholas II was.
Wow.
Now, what was so important in Russia that the Illuminati caused World War I eventually to happen and to cause the Russian Revolution. What they wanted was, as I said before, the Baku Noble oil fields. You see, when we think about what they were saying about what they wanted, those Baku oil fields, let me explain this. The Baku oil fields at that time contained half of the world's oil reserves.
Wow.
That's 50% of all the oil was found at the Baku Noble oil fields, and the Illuminati wanted to gain it and control it. That much power could subjugate most of the world during those days and age.
Right, yeah, wow.
Remember, when we consider the Baku oil fields, and it was 12 years from 1905 to 1917. Remember Jacob Schiff's exclamation. He said, "The actual reward of what we have strived for those long years." He also added in that letter, listen to this, "I am quite convinced that with the certainty of the development of the country's enormous resources, the oil fields, Russia will before long take rank financially amongst the most favored nations in the money markets of the world."
Wow.
Yeah. So it wasn't for the sake of being politically nice. No. Jacob Schiff had plans for the Baku oil fields.
Huh. Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, and we have to remember, it's the Rothschild family that's the head of the Order of the Illuminati to this very day.
Mm-hmm.
And the Rothschild family, they wanted those oil fields, and they got them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Excuse me. That's what it was all about. Now, it's interesting. While 1917 was going on, and we had the Russian Revolution, World War I, and all this. During the spring of 1917, after the Tsar had abdicated his throne, Trotsky had given a speech before his departure for Petrograd, in which he said, "I am going back to Russia to overthrow the provincial government and stop the war with Germany." Yeah, it sounds noble, doesn't it?
Right.
Give me a break. him and Lenin were both in on this.
Wow.
Now, this is where it really gets interesting. Now, Trotsky had boarded the SS Christiania Ford, and he had $10,000 in his pocket for traveling expenses, which, let's face it, back in 1917, $10,000? That was almost, $500,000 nowadays.
Right, yeah.
And that was traveling expenses. Yeah, want to take a wild guess who gave him the money? Hello?
Yeah, sorry, I was waiting for you to...
I'm sorry. Oh, no.
I didn't know you were actually asking. I thought... I told you I was going to be...
You're really getting into this, aren't you?
Yeah, I told you I was going to be on the edge of my seat through this.
The person who gave him the money was none other than Jacob Schiff.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Jacob Schiff gave him $10,000 just for expenses. Now, who needs to spend the equivalency of $500,000 crossing the ocean?
Yeah, no kidding.
But anyways, now, Trotsky, as I was saying, he his ship left New York and was put in at Halifax, Nova Scotia, in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Once it had, Trotsky was arrested by Canadian and British naval personnel.
Wow.
He was arrested on the spot. Well, we have to remember, this is 1917. This is World War I. And Trotsky was arrested because he was recognized as a threat to the best interests of England and Canada's mother country and the British Commonwealth.
Huh.
Yeah, remember, Canada is part of the English Commonwealth.
Right.
And Trotsky, an enemy of England, decided, let's just, dock here, But anyways, you see, Russia was an ally of England at the time, in which World War I was being fought. So by helping to overthrow Russia, Trotsky would be helping to strengthen Germany, to whom England was fighting against.
Wow.
Yeah, so Canada arrested Trotsky, who would be considered an enemy of England and her allies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is where it's really going to get interesting. When Trotsky was arrested, telegrams were immediately arriving in Halifax. One such telegram came from an obscure attorney in New York. Another came from the Canadian Deputy Postmaster General. Even a high-ranking British military officer had sent a telegram asking about Trotsky and urging for his immediate release. Now, at the time, the head of the British Secret Service in America was Sir William Wiseman, who occupied the apartment directly above a gentleman known as Colonel Edward Mandell House. Does that name ring a bell?
Little bit, yeah.
Okay. Now, both men were close friends, and House, Edward Mandell House, he revealed to Wiseman that President Wilson wanted to have Trotsky released. You see, President Wilson and Colonel Edward Mandell House had a very unique relationship. You see, I've always said that Colonel House was the avatar of Woodrow Wilson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you see, whatever Colonel House believed in or espoused, that's what Woodrow Wilson would want. I mean, what was that book Woodrow Wilson wrote? And I know it's when I can't think of it off the top of my head. But when we go to that particular book, everything in it was exactly about Woodrow Wilson, Colonel Mandell House, and the plans for setting up a new world order.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you look at the book now, you just can't help but wonder, how could, Colonel House and Woodrow Wilson not be arrested?
Right.
Yeah, you see, well, as I said, Colonel House was the avatar of President Wilson and advised him, this is a civilian now, advised him on many issues regarding the U.S. Now, Wilson wanted Trotsky released because Russia would serve as an ally for his goal on creating the League of Nations.
Oh, wow.
Now, you see, now this is, what I'm about to tell you, this is on, DVD 3. It's called Frontmen of the Illuminati. You see, Wilson was on the verge, literally the verge, of becoming the very first global dictator if he could get the United States Senate and Congress to sign in for the League of Nations. Had he got the United States and Russia signed for the League of Nations, he could walk into this new entity known as the League of Nations with that paper, sit down, and there it is, the first global dictator.
Wow.
But there was enough men and women of conscience left in both houses that realized this could not be allowed.
Right.
And so they voted against it. So all of Wilson's plans to become the first global dictator came to naught.
Wow.
Yep, that's what happened. Yeah, so anyways, that British Secret Serviceman I was telling you about, Sir William Wiseman,
Uh-huh.
he advised his government and the British Admiralty, and they issued orders. And on April 21st, 1917, Trotsky was released and sent on his way. And it was President Wilson who provided Trotsky with an American passport to return to Russia to go ahead with the Russian Revolution of 1917. Yeah. Wilson gave him an American passport. If he didn't, Trotsky wouldn't have been able to have gone anywhere.
Oh, geez.
Yep. Well, anyway, so Trotsky returned to Petrograd in May of 1917. Now, this is where, again, let's hear it for the Illuminati, because through Germany, now remember, this was supposed to be the enemy fighting against Russia, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was through Germany, the Illuminati had shipped $20 million worth of gold to Trotsky to fund the Russian Revolution.
Wow.
Yeah. That's exactly what had happened. See, World War I was created by the Illuminati in order to secure the rich Baku noble oil fields. Now, taking the oil fields would give the Illuminati control of half of the world's oil reserves. It also served to sever the British ties with Russia and end the German-British relationships. Plus, the Illuminati could install, for the first time in history, their global Illuminati communist beliefs into a nation that would become a superpower. Yeah. So the coming of the New World Order was now well on its way. Yeah.
Wow.
So, what? In the end, we could say of this revolution, that the Russian Revolution of October 17th was a success. What was it? From November of 1917 through 1924, Lenin held the title of the chairman of the Council of People's Commissars of the Russians. Now remember, Lenin was in power only because of the Illuminati. And remember, all they wanted was the Baku oil fields. Go in, do this, clear out the Tsar, take over, give us what we want, and we're going to let you keep and run the place for as long as you're alive. Well, there was only one little hitch to all of this. Lenin didn't want to give up the Baku oil fields. Yeah. He was in power. He had Russia and all this other stuff. He didn't want to give it up.
Right.
Now, I tell you, Josh, that was his ultimate fatal mistake. Because it was on January 21st, 1924, that the Illuminati had him murdered by poisoning him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And after they put in the next person we'll go to, they had his right-hand man, Leon Trotsky, executed also.
Huh.
Yeah, but, the Illuminati's, shall we say, communist belief would stay in Russia. That's the only thing that stayed alive in Russia after the Illuminati was done cleaning up house for all those who betrayed them.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's intense.
You do not betray them like that and think you're going to get away with it. The only way you're going to leave the Illuminati is either feet first or by the grace of God that you're saved.
Right.
That's it.
Wow.
Now, it is interesting that proof that, shall we say, Trotsky was involved. He wrote, what was that book? My Life, The Rise and Fall of a Dictator. He wrote, in the 18th century, Freemasonry became expressive of a militant policy of enlightenment, as in the case of the Illuminati, who were the forerunners of the revolution. On its left, it culminated in the Carbonari. Now, the Carbonari was the most powerful of all the Italian families at the time. When the second head of the Order of the Illuminati, which would have been, again, this would have been, 1830? I'm thinking. Oh, my goodness. The second head of the Illuminati, I know this like the back of my hand. Why can't I think of his name? He was considered a famous Italian revolutionist. If I remember his name, I'll mention it. But anyways, what he had done, he took the most powerful families in all of Italy, brought them under the wings of the Illuminati. And this group was now supposed to be, shall we say, the executioners of what the Illuminati called their version of justice. And this militant arm of the Illuminati was given the name Mafia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There it is, Manzini. You see, Manzini, Mafia is actually an anagram, M-A-F-I-A. I don't remember the exact Italian words off the top of my head, but Mafia, the anagram, translates into, his first name is Giuseppe Manzini, or Joseph Manzini. Mafia means Manzini authorizes thefts, murders, and fires.
Oh, wow.
And isn't that the three-way the Mafia still stands up against those who would dare stand up against them?
Right, yeah.
That's where it comes from.
Huh.
The Mafia was created by Giuseppe Manzini, the second head of the Order of the Illuminati. And there are so many other people who knew what was going on, like Sir Winston Churchill. He said, the one who cannot see that on earth a big endeavor is taking place, an important plan, on which realization we are allowed to collaborate as faithful servants, certainly has to be blind. And Churchill said that back in 1922. He also said in 1917 that he knew it was the Order of the Illuminati under Weishaupt who started the French Revolution, and that they were now creating the Bolshevik Revolution. Nestor H. Webster, that famous literary writer back in the late 1800s through the 1900s, well, she was hailed as one of the greatest writers of her day. And even she was saying it was through the Illuminati and Weishaupt that Bolshevism now is where it comes from, was because of what the Illuminati had done during the Bolshevik Revolution.
Mm.
Yeah, you see, and this is what's interesting. All these lessons we can pick up from the past, but no one wants to go to the past and look at these things. Remember, as I said, the whole premise of what we're going to do, in order to understand the present, we have to go into the past so we can understand what's going to happen tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And when we look at what's going on with Barack Obama, people, this is critical if you're going to understand what we're going to be up against. Because, you see, the next person after Vladimir Lenin was Joseph Stalin. Now, Stalin, he would rise to become the leader of the Communist Party in 1929. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, as I said before, the Illuminati would have Leon Trotsky executed, and it was done by Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin knew that Lenin wanted Trotsky to succeed him, but Stalin wanted the power for himself. So, yeah, he got permission from the Illuminati because the Illuminati wanted to get rid of Trotsky anyways, and they did. They just gave him away because... Wow. Well, because look at what him and Lenin wanted to do. Let's keep the Baku oil fields and tell our masters to take a hike.
Right.
You don't say that to the Illuminati. Well, anyways. Now, of course, when we look at both of them, Lenin and Stalin, both of them were very clever and ambitious politicians. Now, they were also both very extreme patriots. We can't argue that point. They were patriots. Mm-hmm. And both of them used their secret police to crush any opposition. Now, of course, that secret police was created through the $20 million in gold that was sent to Trotsky through Germany through the Illuminati. Mm. Now, obviously, people were not allowed to speak their true opinion openly.
Right.
Again, gee, shall we say, let's hear it for the thought police? This is going to sound very familiar, people, as we go along. But anyways, there was also major differences between Stalin and Lenin. You see, Lenin was more careful in the way he used his secret police, the Cheka. Mm-hmm. Stalin was more crushing the opposition and went so far as to hold, those infamous show trials in public. Mm-hmm. This way, it would remind anyone what would happen to them if they stood in his way.
Right.
Yeah. And what was interesting was Lenin was more popular because of the October 17th, Russian Revolution, because he was one of the people. Stalin, on the other hand, was less popular because of the way he eliminated his opponents. Mm. Yeah. Oh, everyone could see through Stalin what he was doing and everything. But remember, if you dared say his word, the secret police would, come visit you in the middle of the night and you wouldn't be heard of again.
Right.
Hmm? So, for 5 years, there was that, that was from 1934 to 1939. It was known as the Great Purge. This was Stalin again. The Great Purge, was a campaign of political repression. He was getting rid of anyone who spoke out against them, and that included, government officials, the peasants, the old Bolshevik, and the Red Army leadership. Wow. Yeah, he didn't care if you were part of the Russian Revolution and anything like that. No. All he was interested in was securing his position and power, and woe be to the person who stood up against him. And, again, because he wanted to hold on to what he had, he gave immediately, once he got his power, the Baku Noble oil fields over to the Rothschild family.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah. Half of the oil reserves of the world was given over to the Rothschild family with just a handshake.
Huh. Jeez.
That's what the revolution was all about. And in order to secure his position, you've heard of gulags before, correct?
Correct.
Right. Now, the term gulag has come to mean, Russian, what are they called? Concentration camps.
Yeah.
Right. But the Gulag was the government agency that administered the main Soviet forced labor camps, during Stalin's dictatorship. That's where you get the term Gulag from.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
now under Stalin, and this is so horrific. I can't believe this person. But under Stalin, because, between the Great Purge and the Gulags, he murdered 10 to 20 million of his own people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, many of them had just simply starved to death. And he didn't care who he sent to these gulags, men, women, and children. He didn't care.
Jeez.
I can see, a 10-year-old boy or a 10-year-old girl being a major threat to his authority.
Yeah, no kidding.
But this was the type of individual he was. And what's really interesting, when we take a look at the writings and the belief system of Vladimir Lenin and Joseph Stalin, do you know, they also, most of their belief is stolen directly from the Illuminati.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Remember, Lenin was a socialist. Stalin was a communist. Similar, but with enough differences to make them separate governmental belief systems.
Right.
And, eventually what had happened, and this is another one of those you've got to be kidding things, but Stalin himself was poisoned by the Illuminati.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. You see, the problem was, by the time, we were nearing World War II, Stalin was becoming, he always had been a power-hungry individuul.
Mm-hmm.
And he had reached out in places he never should have. Because after World War II was done, okay, it was right around 1953, I think it was March 5th, 1953, Joseph Stalin was found dead. And he was injected with the poison. He was, because he thought after World War II that Russia was such a superpowered nation that he was going to cause World War III with America.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that power-hungry maniac thought Russia was going to go up against America and win. I mean, this is just, World War II ended 1945. 8 years later, Stalin was murdered because he thought he was going to take Russia, who in reality was a super poor country and had no resources at that time, and he was going to go up against America. But the Illuminati told him to back down.
Right.
Well, he decided he wasn't going to listen to the Illuminati. He was making plans to cause a World War III.
Wow.
Once the Illuminati found out, they had him executed. And it was done by one of his own gods, mind you.
Wow.
Yeah. So you see, again, when we compare, and this is an important thing to know, ladies and gentlemen, when we compare the seven-part plan of Dr. Adam Weishaupt and look at socialism and communism, it fits into both geopolitical systems perfectly.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that it doesn't end there. We're going to, now, I could go a lot further, but we need to go to one other person in particular in history.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going to ask you this. Do you know who, you know Time Magazine?
Uh-huh.
Do you know who their 1938 Man of the Year was?
I do not.
Okay, think back. 1938. Dictator.
Hitler?
Adolf Hitler.
Wow.
Can you believe he was considered to be Time Magazine's 1938 Man of the Year?
No, I had not heard that. How'd that happen?
Well, let's go back once again to World War One. Okay.
Uh-huh.
After the end of World War One, you've heard of the Treaty of Versailles, right?
Sounds familiar.
Right. It was on what was that? June 28, 1919, that the Treaty of Versailles had been signed. Now, Germany was now going to pay for supposedly starting World War One.
Uh-huh.
Part of the punishments inflicted upon Germany, and remember, Germany really didn't start World War One. See, World War One was blamed on the assassination of the highest-ranking nobleman in Germany at the time. That would have been Archduke Francis Ferdinand. Mm-hmm. Now, after the first assassination attempt on that day on Archduke Francis Ferdinand, you would think his secret police would have just brought him back to, the castle and, kept him under lock and guard, right?
Right.
No. They kept going.
Oh,
it was
geez.
only a couple hours later that the second gunman was able to shoot and kill him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was found out both those assassins were Masons.
Oh. Huh.
And the Masons, yes, the Freemasons, were taken over by the Order of the Illuminati on July 16, 1782, at the famous Congress of Wilhelmsbad in Bavaria, Germany. You see, at that time, the 23 Supreme Masonic Councils of the world sent representatives to meet with Dr. Adam Weishaupt's right-hand man, who was Baron Adolf von Koenig. After sitting down and going over, and after 30 different sessions, I should say, those representatives signed a blood contract vowing to follow the Illuminati's seven-part plan towards the creation of a new world order.
Oh, wow. 95%
of all Masons haven't got a clue what's going on within their own temples. It's only the, top 5% that know anything, and that's because they're in the Illuminati at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's how, that happened. But, no, it was not the assassination of Archduke Francis Ferdinand that caused the war. You know as well as I do now, it was because they wanted to get the Baku oil fields of Russia and take over half of the world's oil.
Wow.
It was about money, control, and power, and that's what the Illuminati got out of it.
Right.
But anyways, since Germany supposedly was to blame for all this, part of the punishments inflicted upon Germany, for starting World War I, supposedly, and if we go by the Treaty of Versailles, this is what you find out. Germany, along with Austria and Hungary, were to assume full responsibility for causing World War I. Germany would not be allowed to have any real standing army or machinery of war, and Germany was to pay war reparations.
Oh, geez.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's the part that really, I've never heard of anything like this before, but the total amount of war reparations that Germany was to pay came out to be 132 billion Deutschmarks, which back then was 442 billion American dollars.
Wow.
Now, that was back then. Yeah. Now, that was a staggering and unheard of amount in 1921.
Yeah.
No, I mean, because in 1921, the total national debt of America was $787 billion. And they were asking Germany, a defeated, impoverished nation, now to fork over more than half of our national debt.
Oh, geez.
Now, remember, that was $442 billion back then. Think about what it must be nowadays.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know, as I said, Germany was a defeated nation. They ended up in national poverty because of hyperinflation. You know, I mean, the hyperinflation was so bad that it took 1 million Deutschmarks just to buy a loaf of bread.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. And Germany, they were unable to defend or feed itself. So, you know, when you look at everything that Germany was going to have to, you know, endure under these reparations and remunerations, there's no doubt it was inevitable that World War II was going to happen.
Right.
Germany could not allow itself to stay like this. You know, and, well, give it about 15 years later, and this failed artist known as Adolf Hitler came to the forefront.
Oh, wow.
You know, and Hitler, unlike Lenin, who was a socialist, and Stalin, who was a communist, Hitler was a fascist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, fascists. Now, they seek to unify their nations through a totalitarian state, you know, that promotes the mass mobilization of everyone of the national community. You know, we're all in it, you know, as one big family, everyone.
Right.
You know? And, of course, a totalitarian state is a political system in which the state holds total authority. Listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. A totalitarian state is a political system in which the state holds total authority over the society and seeks to control all aspects of public and private life wherever possible.
Wow.
Not to give it sound familiar to you at all.
Yeah, I was just going to say, sounds a little bit familiar.
Uh-huh. You know, well, fascism, by, you know, definition, is in direct opposition to communism, socialism, liberal democracy, and traditional conservatism. And fascism is usually placed on the far right, on the traditional left-right spectrum of politics. Mm-hmm. You know, you got the left hand and the right hand side. Well, they're usually placed on the far right hand side of the traditional left side politics, where you find, you know, the Democrats.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a known fact. Anyone who's ever studied anything related to political science or poli-sci would have to know that.
Right.
You know? Now, the real problem, you know, some of the common features, which a bit problematic, if you would, about fascism is that fascism, they would include a veneration of the state, a devotion to a strong leader, and an emphasis on ultranationalism and militarism. Mm. And this, let's face it, was Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime.
Yeah. Because
fascism, you know, a fascist views political violence, war, and imperialism as a means to achieve national rejuvenation, and asserts that stronger nations have the right to expand their territory by displacing weaker nations. In other words, might makes right. The strong get to rule over the weak.
Huh.
That was Hitler. And, you know, Hitler eventually did come to power Oh, let's see. Hitler had the Reichstag fire decree in February of 1933 passed. Then eventually, what was that? That would have been, January 20th, 1933, Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany.
Hmm.
And it was in, 1938. You remember when he became Time Magazine's Man of the Year?
Yeah.
Now, what Time Magazine didn't realize was that Hitler was not a nice guy. Now, you see, shortly before that, under the Nazi regime, was the 1936 Olympics.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they held the Olympics. And now this is another story and a whole nother DVD, but you've seen the presentation I did on the Olympic Games?
Yeah, that's ringing a bell.
Yeah. It was in 1936 that the Illuminati started putting, under Adolf Hitler, new changes to the Olympic Games.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the Olympic torch, there was no such thing like that before. There was not the Olympic marathon race or the Olympic bowl, the bell tower, and so many other aspects. We just take commonplace, in the Olympic Games. But none of that existed until the Illuminati had them put in through Hitler. Well, anyway, so because of the way Germany, shall we say, was cleaned up and the Jewish problem tucked aside, well, Time Magazine thought Hitler had to have been the greatest political leader ever because he brought Germany from a decimated state because of the Treaty of Versailles and brought it back as a world power and was now holding the Olympic Games.
Right.
This really looked, like, wow, what an incredible person he must be, but they didn't know who Hitler really was.
Right.
They didn't. Hitler was, as you well know, history recorded Adolf Hitler to be one of the foulest, most evil persons who have existed.
Yeah.
Now, he only got in power again, and that was because of the Illuminati, And what had happened, once he got in power, Hitler himself was calling for a new world order, and this, you don't have to know this other one, the 1,000-year Reich.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Now, the 1,000-year Reich, I'll explain that afterwards. But notice, he would be the first political person, historically speaking. It wasn't George Bush. It was Adolf Hitler who was calling for a new world order.
Wow.
That is a verbatim quote from Dr. Adam Weishaupt's writing itself.
Oh, wow. So he actually used that terminology, too.
Oh, yes, that's where it comes from.
Wow.
Weishaupt, when he wrote the seven-part plan, the seventh part of that plan calls for the creation of a new world order.
Hmm.
Or, as it said on the back of a $1 bill under the pyramid, the Novus Ordo Seclorum.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's take a look. And, let's just take a look at Hitler's reign and tell me if some of this isn't beginning to sound familiar, okay?
Okay.
Well, first of all, let's look at the SS, or what's known as the Schutzstaffel. That was, the paramilitary group that protected Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, of course, they became part of what's known as the Wehrmacht or the armed forces. Now, the Schutzstaffel. They literally embodied the Nazi ideology and was under the command of the SS leader Heinrich Himmler.
Right.
And as I said, they were the personal bodyguards of the Fuhrer or Adolf Hitler, and eventually their numbers came to 1 million. Now,
wow.
And of course it was through Hitler. We had the Hitler Youth Groups. You know, Hitler's Youth Group was a paramilitary organization of the Nazi Party for boys, you know, that was between ages 14 through 18. And there was also a young boys section for, you know, those boys that was between 10 and 14. Those youth groups existed all the way through 1945, and believe it or not, there was also a girls section of these youth groups, and that was for girls 10 to 14. So Hitler had paramilitary organizations for the youth. There was also what was known as, how do you say that in German again? Das Wachschweren. It was an oath every soldier had to take to the Fuhrer. Yeah, every soldier had to swear allegiance to Hitler, and the oath goes like this. I swear by God, this holy oath, that I want to offer unconditional obedience to the Fuhrer of the German Reichen people, Adolf Hitler, the commander-in-chief of the Wehrmacht, and be prepared as a brave soldier to risk my life for this oath at any time.
Wow.
Right. Now, since Hitler obviously couldn't be, you know, at every single one of these oath-taking ceremonies, it would be okay if you, you know, like, place your hand on, you know, the flag or the of the Third Reich and take the oath. You know, you know, that would be okay because the swastika, which was on, you know, the flag of the Third Reich, was Adolf Hitler's logo, you know, his personal symbol.
Right.
You know? Now, here's an interesting thought. This is this is from Hitler's own writings now. This was him on his gun control program. He said, the most foolish mistake we could possibly make would be to allow the subject races to possess arms. History shows that all conquerors who have allowed their subject races to carry arms have prepared their own downfall by doing so. So in other words, take the guns away.
Yeah. Sounds a lot like what we're going through now.
And let's not forget the concentration camps.
Yeah.
There was, I think, a total of 1,200, I believe it was, throughout Germany. You know,
wow.
All the areas of Germany that they conquered also. I think there was a total of, of 1,200. And let's face it, it was men, women, and children. They didn't care. And of course, if you were Jewish, you received that tattoo on your arm, the numbers. Because Hitler, under orders again from the Illuminati, just like the Russians, get rid of the Jews.
Right.
And of course, they took those poor Jewish people and put them into those, what I call nothing but death trains. You know, where those poor people, they were loaded into those boxcars like sardines, and they had to endure 3 to 5 days of standing on their feet because, you know, it was so densely packed you couldn't sit down.
Oh, man.
And those people went without food and water sometimes for 3 to 5 days.
Wow.
You know? And let's talk about Hitler's healthcare system. Now, few people know what I'm about to tell you about this one. But let me ask you anyways. Have you ever heard of the T4 program under Hitler?
Nope. No, I haven't.
Well, again, let me just go through this.
Yeah, absolutely.
The T4 was a secret medical program established by Hitler to determine by death panels what patients would be considered to have lives unworthy to be lived, And what would be the most practical and cheap manner of removing them from being burdened on the healthcare system? By death.
Oh, wow.
So, who are considered to be unworthy to live? Well, patients suffering from diseases who are not employable, the mentally handicapped, anyone who had been institutionalized for at least 5 years, the criminally insane, eventually the elderly, eventually non-Aryans.
Oh, wow.
And, well, in order to, find out the best way of execution on all this, well, it was given over to a person known as Dr. Joseph Mengele.
Yeah.
Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Also known as the Angel of Death.
Mm-hmm.
He would have his victims killed through lethal injections, shootings, beatings, through selections, through deadly experiments. I mean, I remember one, he used to actually take people's limbs and dip them in liquid nitrogen.
Oh, jeez.
And that freezes everything instantly, and all you have to do is just give it a good sound tap and it shatters.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what Joseph Mengele would be doing.
Wow.
This guy was a sadist, lacking empathy and any shred of humanity as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And interesting, let's go to this. Again, I'm saying these things for a reason, folks. I will catch you up to all these points. But Hitler's favorite, shall we say, favorite place of vacation was near Berchtesgaden in Bavaria, Germany. It was known as the Berghof. Now, it was no accident that it was near Bavaria, right next door, because it was in Bavaria that the Order of the Illuminati existed back then and where it all began to begin with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's why it was in that area. Now, oh my goodness, education under the Third Reich was a joke.
Huh.
Yeah, anything that was considered, so to say, anything that wouldn't have been taught to a Nazi soldier, the belief system, anything, none of that was taught. These kids were being raised to be future members of Nazi society.
Right.
And Hitler himself had established a number of schools and universities that would just teach Hitler's and the Nazis' ideology as if it was gospel.
Huh.
Well, as a matter of fact, I just remembered there was 10 Adolf Hitler schools for those boys who was considered of the right mindset, towards Nazi ideology.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, of course, we can't leave out the occult element of this because that would be Heinrich Himmler.
Right.
Remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hitler was the new god of Germany. Nazism was a new religion. And from that, you could easily say that Heinrich Himmler would have to be the high priest over the ideology of Nazism.
Wow.
Yeah.
We got a beast and a false prophet.
Exactly, because Heinrich Himmler, interesting enough, he was interested in the occult from a very early age. He married his occult beliefs into his racist philosophy, looking for proof of Aryan and Nordic racial superiority, from ancient times, putting them above all the other races.
Right.
So he promoted a cult of ancestor worship, particularly among members of the SS, the Schutzstaffel, as a way to keep the race pure and provide immortality to the nation.
Huh.
Yeah. And it was through Heinrich Himmler that the Thule Society came about. Yeah, have you ever heard of the Thule Society?
Of what?
The Thule Society.
Oh, Thule, yes. Yep.
Yeah. Now, shall we say, their primary focus was claiming, that they were part of the original Aryan race.
Yeah.
You see, Thule was a land often identified as Iceland back then. And according to Nazi mystics, they identified Thule as the capital of a lost ancient landmass known as Hyperborea, the lost home of the Aryan race. And it would be from this occult group that Himmler would take a lot of their beliefs and incorporate them into the SS.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, there was a second major occult society under the auspices of the Nazi regime and under Hitler's direct protection. They were known as the Brill Society.
Yep.
Right. Now, the Brill Society was a group of female psychic mediums led by Maria Orstic. Now, Maria claimed to be in direct communication with aliens living on Alpha Centauri in the Aldebaran system.
Wow.
And the word Brill itself comes from the ancient Sumerian word Bre-il, or like God.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, think about this. These people thought that they were in direct contact with higher sentient living creatures light years away, and that they were telling them how that they were going to create a superior society because they were directly related to them, the people in the Aldebaran system, where the Aryan race originally came from.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, isn't that a mind bender?
Yeah, to say the least.
But it's also because of the Brill Society and the Thule Society. If it wasn't for them, there would be no UFOs.
Huh.
Yeah.
Do you see them as like they kind of drew them in, or
without the Brill and the Thule Society, you would never have one single UFO.
Wow.
I could get into this, but we just won't have the time. I mean,
right.
In the DVD series I'm presently working on, it's called The Secrets of the Illuminati. DVDs 9 and 10, there's so much information on this, I had to break it up into two parts, DVD 9 and DVD 10. It's called, excuse me, folks, it's called Aliens, Fallen Angels, or Antichrist.
Okay.
It's 7 hours long, 14 major sections. I use more than 750 photos, diagrams, charts, original Nazi schematics, everything.
Wow.
But the end result is all this, what they've been doing with aliens and UFOs, is part of a 75-year-old plan that the Illuminati is using to cover up one of the greatest future events that's going to happen. And I guarantee you, I know what I came from. I know what the Illuminati's plans for. I was in it for 20 years. I was a seventh-generation Illuminati master witch. I learned from my own family background things that, over 200 years worth of names, dates, places, times, events, who's been into what. And I can promise you, after working on this plan for 75 years, the Illuminati can cover up this future event. I promise you, Josh, they can do it.
Oh, wow.
They can definitely do it. And ladies and gentlemen, I would urge you to look at DVD 9 and 10. You can find it on my website. I believe, Josh, you have already given the information.
Mm-hmm.
The event I'm talking about is the rapture.
Oh, wow.
But think about this, Josh. How do you suddenly explain tens, if not over hundreds of millions of people suddenly vanishing off the face of the earth?
Right.
How do we explain the sudden vanishing of millions of newborn babies in hospital wards? How do we explain away all the car drivers, the people who are the engineers behind the train, the pilots who vanish from the airplanes? How do we explain all this?
Right.
The Illuminati, they can cover up the rapture. They can do it. I promise.
Wow.
Not only can they, but they've been planning on doing this for 75 years, and they can do it.
Huh.
But you have to go through those 14 major sections to understand it from beginning to end. Again, I'm not just going to give a quick explanation. It doesn't work like that. You have to see all the evidence first. And then, at the end, when we show how it all tags in together, there's no doubt left in your mind.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's because of this 75-year-old plan that the Illuminati, through the Brill Society and the Thor Society, started UFOs and all this alien nonsense. And it is nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And, but I really, ladies and gentlemen, please take a look of DVDs 9 and 10. It's called Aliens, Fallen Angels, or Antichrist.
And they can get that from your website, and it's let me make sure I have it right here. I have it right here. Okay, www.
GodThingProductions777.com.
Yep, and all those
It's all
sevens. It's the
no apostrophes. It's a GodThingProductions777.com. And ladies and gentlemen, while you're there, please, when you see the taskbar on the left-hand side, go all the way to the bottom and sign up for the mailing list. This way, when we have new DVDs or any announcement of things like that, you will receive all the information just like everyone else on the mailing list.
Absolutely, and I'll have the link to your website at the on the bottom with the show notes. That's the word I was looking for.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Let's get to Hitler's downfall, just like all the others.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Hitler was not only was, but he decided he was going to betray his masters in the Illuminati. Oh yeah, he, like everyone else, give him a little bit of power, he became too big for his own britches.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well for everyone else before him.
Oh, well, let me tell you what happened. This is a good one. And this involves the royal monarchs of England. You see,
wow.
In 1936, in British history, it became known as the Year of the Three Kings. Because, now let me think, sometimes I forget the numbers. It was, okay, George VI, Edward VIII, George V, the father of Edward and George, his son, died in January of 1936, okay? Well, his son, who became known as Edward VIII, fell in love with a twice divorcee, an American divorcee known as Wallis Simpson. Remember her?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And supposedly he gave up his crown so he could marry the love of his life, and it was supposedly one of the greatest love stories in all of history. Yeah, and I'm a duck. Yeah, that's not what it was all about. Oh, my goodness. Talk about someone called me a historical revisionist. What was going on was his own parliament. Now, this is, the King of England, okay? His own government and his prime minister, they knew that Edward VIII, he didn't go through his coronation ceremony as of yet, but he still was the King of England. Well, what had happened? His who was that? I can't think of the prime minister at the time, but he found out, just like his own government, that Edward was a perfect fascist. The guy idolized Adolf Hitler in the way he brought his people back under fascism. But anyways, Hitler, when he found out that there might be some favor leaning towards him from the British Crown, sent in his spies to feel out Edward to see where he really stood on the political realm and the issues. And Hitler, once he was satisfied that Edward was his man, well, after Edward was forced, and I mean he was backed into a corner, to either give up Wallace Simpson and keep the crown, or abdicate so he could marry Wallace Simpson. He would not be allowed to have both.
Oh, wow.
And the Church of England backed up the government, because at the time, we have to understand, it's known as the C of E in England, the COE, C of E, the Church of England. They never have ever recognized divorces in the church.
Right.
And they refused to this very day. That's why Prince Charles had to have a, we call it a justice of peace type of marriage. You know, he could not have a church marriage because Camilla Parker Bowles, just like Charles, were both divorcees. So the Church of England would not allow them to be married in their churches. They had to go, a JOP. Well, and that's because as the head of the Church of England, you see, any king or queen is automatically the head of the Church of England. It's been like that since the days of Henry VIII, when he started the Church of England. Or it could have been it was Henry, I believe, who started it. Or his daughter, Queen Elizabeth I. It was one of the two. I think it was Henry that started the Church of England. But anyways, so as the head of the church, Edward could not remarry. I mean, it was unheard of. She's divorced him twice. And what if, she married him and decided she got tired of him and married someone else? No one in all of British history has ever divorced the monarch. And so the Church of England had solid ground to tell Edward why they would not allow the marriage. So once, as I said, but that was the politics. That was the surface knowledge. Well, you can't marry her because she's a bad girl.
Right.
That was the excuse. As I said, once Hitler found out. Let me stop there for a second. So Edward abdicated the throne so he could marry Wallace. Now, while he became known as, I think he became known as the Duke of Windsor after that, because his brother, George VI, became the King of England, and he had Elizabeth II, who's the present Queen of England. Okay? Well, anyways, as a former King of England and now Duke of Windsor, once Hitler found out where Edward really stood, he invited Edward and Wallace Simpson over to his place in Berchtesgaden, met with them, talked with them, treated them like royalty, and Hitler brokered a deal with Edward. He promised Edward that if he would publicly back Hitler's fascist regime, once Hitler took England, he would allow Edward to take the throne of England and kick his brother off and have Wallace Simpson recognized as the Queen of England.
Oh, wow.
Yep. He would give him... Edward doted on Wallace. There was nothing too high or too impossible that he couldn't do for her.
Right.
And, once he was denied the throne and his family snubbed him and her, oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah. And, he was denied the throne. Oh, yeah. Once Hitler promised him all those little goodies, he went for it. Now, there is a recording in England in which Edward was on the radio backing Hitler and all this. But It was never allowed to be played.
Oh, really?
Oh, well, you see, Baldwin, Stanley Baldwin, I believe was his name, the prime minister at the time, had found out that the BBC was going to play that, and he made sure it never happened.
Oh, jeez.
Yep. But once the Illuminati found out about this deal between him and Edward, they made sure Hitler was going to lose. And well, if you notice, Hitler was on the move, and there was nothing that could stop him. Nothing. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it seemed as if someone had pulled the rug out from underneath his feet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're called the Illuminati.
Wow.
Again, another person who thought he was going to betray his masters.
Doesn't seem to work out too well for anyone, does it?
I told you, there's only two ways I know of you can get out of the Illuminati. Feet first, or if you're a born-again Christian. That's it. I've never seen any... I mean, I do know some people who left the Illuminati that were alive that were not saved, but the longest I've ever seen was usually between 6 months to a year.
Oh, jeez.
That was it. If you're saved, the average, about 3 to 5 years.
Wow. Yeah. And you're going on how long now?
God be praised. By the grace of God, come April 15th, it'll be 35 years.
Wow, praise God for that.
Yeah. The longest person I know before she passed away, of natural causes, was an old friend of mine. She, I think, made it to 23 years, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Few of us, ever die of natural causes, unless we consider this miserable cold I'm going through.
Yeah, I got a little touch of that myself.
Well, it keeps coming and going with me because of the snow and the weather that's constantly changing here.
Oh, yeah, we're getting a lot of that here, too.
Yeah, but no, very few people who's ever left the Illuminati alive have ever died of natural causes.
Wow.
Now, okay, so we've looked at socialism, communism, and fascism, and how the 7-part plan of the Illuminati fits into all of them.
Right.
As it says, in order to understand today, we have to go into the past. Well, we've gone into the past. Now, let's do a comparison here. Okay? What's going on today that doesn't make sense? Or, when we start making comparisons, will begin to make sense.
Right. Right.
Well, Hitler had his paramilitary youth groups, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
As an Obama.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And interesting enough, those youth groups who eventually, became part of, the Wehrmacht, the armed forces, they had to take das Wachsverbot, or that oath of allegiance to Hitler.
Uh-huh.
Now, interesting, get this. Now, it was in an ABC interview where Obama made a very major faux pas. He said, when I think about those soldiers or airmen or Marines or soldiers who are out there fighting on my behalf, excuse me? Excuse me? Those men and women out there are fighting on behalf of America and its people, not because of you, Mr. Obama.
That's right.
You see, Obama, behind the scenes, actually has been trying to get people to take an oath of allegiance to him and not the Constitution.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And interesting enough, Natalie Portman and Jessica Alby pledged allegiance to Obama.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And Natalie Portman says, I pledge allegiance to Obama for women's rights. Excuse me? She's a neat lady. Have you ever heard of Susan B. Anthony before?
Yeah.
And Jessica Alba, she said, I'm pledging because of the right to choose, pro-life and all that other stuff.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, but she's not pro-life. She's pro-death.
Uh-huh.
And that's how I look at it. I'm sorry, folks.
Yeah.
No, I'm not sorry. As a matter of fact, I'm not sorry in the least. If you're not pro-life, then you have to be pro-death.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't want those little babies to live, then you know for a certain fact that you're murdering a living, sentient creature.
I could not agree with you more.
I mean, I know of a number of these children who survived abortions, okay? And just about every single one of them I've ever met, I'm missing an arm, a leg, or arms and legs, or a combination of both, right? And every single one of them told me that they wanted to live.
Yeah.
I don't care if that mom says, well, and forgive me, ladies and gentlemen, if those are your personal given reproductive organs or not, they were put there by God. And the life that was coming out of it is a God creation, not yours.
That's right.
Well, anyways, so, Jessica Alba, thank you for the right to choose, Mr. Obama. Oh, and she also pledged allegiance for equal pay. I'm sorry, Jessica. Again, you must be another person who's as dumb as a brick, because in 1968 it was called the Equal Pay Act.
Uh-huh.
Remember that one, lady? Obviously she doesn't. And what kills me now, I'm an Army veteran, okay?
Uh-huh.
Obama wants people to pledge allegiance to him, right? Yet, I don't know how many photos I have of him. When people are saluting the flag, he's just standing there twiddling his thumbs.
Yeah.
That just infuriates me.
Oh, yeah.
And the same thing with that, wife of his. Oh, no, I've got one where she's just standing behind her husband with her arms crossed, looking as bored as can be. Oh, I'm sorry, Miss First Lady, that you don't have respect for America, Old Glory, and the values we hold dear to us.
Yep, absolutely.
And then, when they do finally salute, they don't do it right. They do it backwards. They do it with their left hand.
Oh, jeez.
Usually, the heart's on the right side. You got to take your right hand and cross it over.
Yep.
But what do I know?
Wow.
Okay. Let's take a look at another comparison. Remember, in Nazi Germany, there was about 1,200 concentration camps. One of the most notorious would have been Auschwitz. And over the gates was that famous German saying, Arbeit macht frei, which is work makes you free.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how it frees you from a concentration camp, but that's what it said. Well, here in America, and I've been plotting and tracking this since the days of Bill Clinton, we now have almost 1,000 concentration camps on American soil now.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. You must have seen the photos by now. Oh.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear
Josh?
me?
Okay. Wake up, Josh. I know it's interesting, but listen to me.
I didn't know. I didn't know if you were just
the photos of those concentration camps in America.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just make sure you're with me on the same page. Okay. Go back to sleep.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Well, anyway, I've got in my possession builders' contracts that completely state that this is what they're building, like the one in Las Vegas, Nevada, right?
Right.
It says job, and then it says Clark County Training Area, Enemy Prisoner War Camp.
Oh,
geez. Then it gives the location and everything. I mean, people,
wow.
How much more obvious can this be?
Yeah, they're not even trying to hide it.
From Bill Hefner, who was a member of Congress back in 1997. Listen to what he says. Enclosed is the information you requested pertaining to the Army's policy and guidance for establishing civilian inmate labor programs and civilian prisoner camps on American installations. This information has not yet been published. It is currently at the printers. However, it has been funded, staffed, and does reflect current Army policy.
Oh.
And you look at the one in Fort Dix, New Jersey, the sign is as blatant as can be. It says POW camp. I mean, how much more obvious can we make it?
Yeah, no kidding.
Now, if you remember, as I said it before, under the Nazi regime, Jewish people, and it wasn't just Jewish people, mind you, they were stacked into the railroad cars and brought to these concentration camps. You know, those were called death cars.
Right.
Well, I'm going to tell you something that may be shocking, but again, I've got the proof. There are, right now, and I mean right now, UN boxcars that are being fitted with shackles.
Oh, geez.
Oh, yeah. I've got the, again, I've got the pre-solicitation notice, you know, the bidder's contacts and all that.
Uh-huh.
And the contact calls for approximately 3,000 rail chain tie-down assemblies.
Huh.
Excuse me, people, that's called shackles.
Yeah.
And instead of, you know, just loading these people in the boxcars like they used to, they're going to make sure these people are shackled.
Wow.
Yeah. As it says, and this notification, this pre-solicitation was put out just, that was on October 9th.
That's not that long ago.
No, it wasn't.
Jeez.
And what terrifies me even more is the means of execution. There was an article in Forbes magazine, January 26th, where it says, United States no longer makes death chamber drugs, and EU, the European Union, won't supply them. Time to revive the guillotine, say pundits.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember hearing about that not too long ago, about the lethal injection shortage, or the company wasn't going to make it anymore, or however they...
because they consider it inhumane. So
yeah.
They want to bring back the guillotines.
Like because that's so much better.
Well, it's cost effective, just like Hitler always said.
Yeah.
And I believe it's in Georgia, where in 1997 they added a clause that if the prisoner wanted to donate his organs, they could not be killed by the electric chair because that would destroy the organs. Mm-hmm. So the clause is added that they could choose to be executed via the guillotine.
Wow.
Yeah. They're bringing back the guillotines. That
fits right into our eschatology.
Let's just keep going.
Yeah.
And, look at what they did under Joseph Mengele, who, he was what? Todesangel, or the Death Angel, that's it. In German, it's Todesangel.
Uh-huh.
And, they got Joseph Mengele and Hitler's version of healthcare, and we ended up with Obamacare.
Yep.
And both of them have death panels on it.
Wow.
Well, wasn't Hitler, as I told you, always taking those vacations in Berchtesgaden?
Mm-hmm.
How many vacations have the first family taken?
Oh, right.
Yeah. Obama has taken 96 days of vacation, and during that time, he's also played 135 rounds of golf, which averages out to be a full round of golf, 18 holes, every 2 weeks. Michelle
Jeez.
has taken 180 days of vacation. Why? I don't know. I don't know of anything that she's ever done.
Yeah, no kidding. It seems like every time you turn on the news, there's somewhere else in the world.
Well, so far she has taken 16 vacations, and mind you, this is during a recession on taxpayers' dollar, and so far it's over $10 million that they've spent
Wow.
during the recession. Our tax dollars.
That's crazy.
But that's what Hitler did. And let's face it, Hitler had his own logo, the swastika, right?
Right.
Obama is the only president in history that has his own logo also. You know that thing that's red, white, and blue?
Right.
And the flag is no longer on Air Force One. It's that stupid logo of his.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, the Hitler wannabe. And let's not forget Hitler's ideas on gun control. Why do you think there's such a big push now?
Yeah, no kidding.
You know what that reminds me of? That miserable, stupid, and I will say stupid, Dianne Feinstein. This is what she said on gun control. Tell me if this is not the most asinine remark you've ever heard in this life. Remember, this is on gun control. When the gunman realizes that nobody else is armed, he will lay down his weapons and turn himself in. That's just human nature.
Oh, gee. When in history has that ever happened?
Right. I mean, the dishonest citizens who are killing people, robbing people, or what have you, are suddenly going to drop their weapons because no one else has a gun?
Yeah, that's the only problem. It's just that we have guns to defend ourselves. That's the only reason that they're robbing and killing everybody. If we didn't have them, they'd be perfect model citizens. That's ridiculous.
When have we ever seen a law-abiding citizen use his weapon for anything illegal?
Right.
It's never happened.
Exactly.
But this lady, I mean, she must have been smoking the same stuff Obama was. Yeah, the gunmen are going to naturally lay down their weapon and turn himself in. My goodness. And let's not forget, Hitler, just like Joseph Stalin and Vladimir Lenin, had their spying networks, right? And those people who were dissident or disagreed were sent to the gulags or to the concentration camps, correct? Well, Obama has his spying network, and it's called the NSA.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about, did you hear about that training program the NSA was using to train the people with known as PRISM?
Oh, you know, I think I did, but I didn't really look into it too deeply. But that does sound familiar.
Well, they're training their agents using 40 slides. Each one of those slides is labeled top secret, you know, and all this stuff. And they're training their agents through this 40-slide presentation known as PRISM. You want to take a wild guess who's got all 40 of those slides in his hot little possession?
Who's that?
And it is true. Every single one of them is labeled top secret.
Oh,
it
wow.
started with Microsoft back, according to the slides now, September 11th of 2007. Yahoo back in March 12th, 2008. Google was 2009. Facebook 2009. Paltalk 2009. YouTube 2010. Skype 2011. AOL 2011. Apple was supposed to have been added back in 2012.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you should see what the information these slides possess. It is absolutely incredible. And yet, every single one of those groups say, well, we have nothing to do with the NSA spying tactics. Oh, really? So you're telling me right now that the NSA is taking these 40 slides, which are full of lies, and trading their agents with?
Right.
No, they train them with the truth, not the lies, because then they don't know which way to turn.
That's right.
You know? And mind you, just in those 6 years alone, Prism has cost more than $20 million a year.
Wow.
Yeah, so times that by 6. There's more than $120 million that's been spent on Operation Prism alone.
Jeez.
And, well, Hitler was calling for, in the German language, new Weltordnung. As you can tell, my German is still okay. You know, I can still speak it all right. He calls for the new Weltordnung. Now, in 2009, in front of the UN, Obama was calling for the New World Order also.
Wow.
Yeah. Just like Joe Biden. The very same week that the Boston Marathon race happened, he was up there calling for a new world order, while Obama and that miserable Feinstein were calling for more gun control.
Wow. Do you think that's behind a lot of these
I am going to tell you
shootings
what happened.
Uh-huh.
That has to be the biggest false flag, the Boston Marathon race bombing, I've ever seen since 9/11.
Right.
And the new DVD that's coming out. I've got a new DVD that should be coming out at the end of this month. It's called False Flag over Boston. I've got photographic evidence, and I mean hardcore evidence, that will prove it was one of the biggest lies we've ever been put through.
Oh, wow.
This was an Illuminati experiment par excellence. I mean, it went off flawlessly. I would have given them an A+ on this one. It was an exercise to determine a civilian population reaction to a martial law event.
Oh, wow.
And you know that, I'll give you for instance, you know that one guy who's been touted as, you know, just about the poster child? What was his name? Jeff Bauman, the guy who supposedly had his legs blown off?
Uh-huh.
You seen him in the wheelchair with that guy in the cowboy hat pushing him?
Yeah.
Now, you know, I have a very sound medical background. When I looked at that photo, I spotted 6 immediate medical reasons why they were lying. Immediately.
Oh, wow.
And I can't get into it right now, but one thing I will tell you. I've got before photos. I mean, the very split second those bombs were going off, I've got photographic evidence that will show you Jeff Bauman didn't have legs to begin with.
Oh, wow.
I've got the evidence. It's right there in the pictures. You just can't deny the obvious.
Huh.
So much of it was exactly what people have been saying all along with all these crisis actors and other things.
Uh-huh.
And unless there's been a zombie apocalypse and no one told me about it, the dead suddenly got up and started rising because that one lady, I can't remember her name, the one at Sandy Hook, the principal that was killed by supposedly that autistic boy,
right?
Don Hawksbum. Well, they showed a photo of her on the TV. And underneath it, it says she was just a couple of blocks away from where the first bomb went off.
Oh, jeez.
How is that possible? She's dead.
Right.
And then those 3 cops that they interviewed, who supposedly were the first 2 cops who arrived and started bringing Sandy Hook under control. Again, I've got the photos of them being interviewed as, you know, in their uniforms, Sandy Hook officers and all this. Yet, I've got another photo that will prove, and you can see them wearing the black uniform and the skull symbol of the Kraft organization. That's a paramilitary private civilian organization. They were at Boston also,
Oh, wow.
in the craft uniform. What are they doing there if they were really officers at Sandy Hook?
Yeah, no kidding.
And then I've got so many different things. It's absolutely amazing the amount of lies that's been done. And I was doing, while the bombings were happening, I was doing a radio show with a friend of mine. His name's Kevin. He's got his own radio show.
Uh-huh.
As the bombs were going off, I said on the radio, I'm on record for this, I said, and the first person that's going to be blamed is someone from an Islamic nation, and that this is some sort of jihad thing. I said,
Right.
mark my word, because I know what the Illuminati's up to right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sure enough, the first suspect that they brought in, who was wounded during the bombing, was Islamic, and they said this is a jihadist thing. Well,
Wow.
now here's the rub. The FBI, he wasn't charged formally yet because he was wounded, but he was brought to one of the local hospitals, and he was on, and every access corridor was under guard. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, no one could come in, no one could get out. Not one person, because it was under FBI jurisdiction, was allowed to go in or out. And yet, I got, again, photographic evidence. This is evidence now that will show Michelle Obama in that person's hospital room talking to him.
Oh, wow.
And here's the interesting thing. After she left, the next day, he vanished, and no one knows where he is to this very day.
Huh.
No one does. And I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but the most popular Islamic newspaper in that area of the world even bragged about how Michelle Obama had visited that person in the hospital.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So I can tell you right now, and again, the new DVD is called False Flag Over Boston. Lord willing, it'll be it'll be released at the end of this month.
I know, I can't wait.
Wait till you see the evidence. Again, you know the way I work, Josh. I'm only going to work with the facts. Let everyone else speculate. Let everyone else talk off the top of their heads. Guess what? As I said, I was a high school teacher in my early Christian walk.
Uh-huh.
I taught the facts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I teach to this every day. Now, so you can see, when we compare the past to Obama's regime, you can see how he's doing the same 7-part plan.
Yeah.
It lines up flawlessly, especially when we compare his regime to Adolf Hitler's regime.
Yeah, no kidding.
Perfect match. Now, what about the future? This is where we get into the coming Antichrist in his future government. Because you see, when we look at the 7-part plan of the Illuminati, now the first part of the plan calls for the abolition of all ordered governments, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, someone's got to gain control of it. One person and one person alone has got to grab everything. That's the only way you can get rid of all ordered governments. Well, Revelation 13:7 says, and we're speaking of the Antichrist here, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
Yep.
He's got everything. He's got power over all tongues, people, and nations. And he has the power to make war with those people who will be saved during that period of time also.
Mm-hmm.
There goes the abolition of all ordered government. Well, when we look at the abolition of private property and abolition of inheritance, those are the number 2 and 3, Revelation 13, 4b through 5 says, "Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months." Do you really think, after this guy has gotten control of absolutely everything, he's going to allow you to have private property, let alone inheritance?
Right. Yeah, he wouldn't be in control of everything if he did.
Well, look at what Adolf Hitler did, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
You know? Abolition of patriotism. Let's just look at Obama. That should tell us something right there.
Yeah.
This is where patriotism is going to be steered, ladies and gentlemen, in the future. Revelation 13:16 through 18. "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that have the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of his man, and his number is 666.
Mm-hmm.
That is where all patriotism will go, straight to the Antichrist.
Yep.
You have to have his mark, his name, or his number placed in your right hand or in your forehead. It did not say on, it said in.
Yep, that's right.
Which means there's only one or two possibilities here. We're talking either some sort of laser tattoo, subdermal, and it can be accomplished, a subdermal tattoo, or the bioelectrical implant chip, or what's known as the RFID chip.
Right.
Both of those are prime candidates right now. It may not be either of them, but they definitely fit the description as far as the book of Revelation just read.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Abolition of all religion. In Daniel, excuse me, Daniel 11:37, it says, "Neither shall he regard the God of his father, nor regard any god, but he shall magnify himself above all." Daniel 11:38, "But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and the God whom his fathers knew not." Revelation 18:23b, "For by thy sorceries were all nations deceived." You see, it's through the occult religions that's going to take over the world. All of that is going to be handed over to the Antichrist through the occult.
Wow.
The prophecies are very succinct in this. And, well, Daniel clearly states that whoever this Antichrist is, he shall not regard the God of his fathers. That's obviously God Almighty.
Right.
Nor regard any god, small g. In other words, any of the false gods, the pagan gods. For he shall magnify himself above all. Remember, this is the same person that's going to sit in the third temple in the city of David, where he will proclaim himself to be God.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the last one, the abolition of the family and the creation of a new world order, number 6 and 7, it's easy. He not only does he abolish the family because everyone's going to have to pledge their lives and everything else to him, but Revelation 13:10 says, "He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword." And power was given him over all kingdoms and tongues and nations. The New World Order has been created.
Wow.
And that's what's going to happen. Again, as I said, to understand the present, you have to go into the past so you can understand what's going to happen tomorrow, especially in light of the prophecies.
Yeah, definitely. Everything you were saying about Especially about Hitler was really, you could look at that as a shadow of things to come.
Well, as you said, it's a shadow of things to come, and it did come. Let's again consider the exactness of the way Hitler ran his government and the way Obama is running ours.
Yeah.
I mean, Hitler had his plans for the youth through his education system. Obama has that Common Core, the government education system. Look at the death panels on the T4 program, the medical program of Hitler. We have it in Obamacare also. Let's consider how Hitler made sure that we've got to disarm the people. Look at how long, for 6 years now, Obama's been trying to get rid of our guns.
Yep.
On and on and on. I could sit here and make 10, 20, 50, 100 different comparisons between Hitler's regime and Obama's and prove it lines up flawlessly. You are seeing the same 7-part plan towards the creation of a new world order. You're seeing the same soap opera, but it's just another name now. Instead of Vladimir Lenin, the name is Joseph Stalin. Instead of Joseph Stalin, it's become Adolf Hitler. Instead of Adolf Hitler, it's become Obama. I could go into Pol Pot, Mao Zedong, Hugo Chavez, all the other dictators and such, and I can prove to you how each and every single system fits perfectly in with the 7-part plan towards the creation of a new world order as it created and established by the Illuminati. And I have got documentation all the way back to George Washington, for goodness sakes, where presidents, Harvard presidents, and I mean presidents of the United States, Harvard presidents, ministers, state officials, prime ministers, authors, lecturers, name it, where all these people were warning us over the last 250 years about the Illuminati and their plans for the creation of a new world order, but has anyone been doing anything?
Right. Wow.
People want to know what's going on nowadays. Go back into history as we just did for the last 2 hours. Bring it up and compare it to what's going on now. Then compare it to the prophecies, and you'll understand how it all fits in. The 7-part plan towards the creation of a new world order is what we're going to see happen, because that's what happened in the past. We see going on right now in America, and when we look at the prophecies, that's exactly what's going to happen in the future.
Wow. Yeah, it really speaks to the state of the world today and why stuff like this is so just increasingly important to look into. And I think that's a lot of the reason that, people like you and I are, the world labels us as crazy conspiracy theorists and stuff like that, but there's real validity to this stuff, and of course the world would want to shut people like us up.
Well, as I said, okay, if people want to think us crazy, President George Washington, the father of the nation, the first president, wrote of his warnings of how the Illuminati had already started to begin infiltrating America.
Wow.
Jebediah Morse, the father of Samuel Morse, who would come up with the Morse code. He was the one who was also writing of the infiltration of the Illuminati in America. George C. Papin, president of Harvard University, as I said, Mr. Webster, one of the greatest writers of her day and age. I mean, 50 of the most important newspapers back then before they were infiltrated. Her own colleagues wrote that she was one of the most brilliant minds of her day and age. Sir Winston Churchill, are we going to call him a nutter? He was warning about the infiltration of the Illuminati, how they were responsible for the French Revolution, and how they had started the Bolshevik Revolution and had set up Bolshevism and communism in Russia. The California education system, at the education board back in the late 50s, early 60s, I think it was, also was warning about how the Illuminati was infiltrating the educational system. I mean, how many of these people are we actually going to have the nerve to stand up and say, well, they were just complete nuts?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, these were the best of the best who were all saying, this is what's really going on, America. We got to stop doing something about it now before it's too late.
Yeah, and look where we are now, and nobody seems to be listening except, you know, a handful of us out there, but wow.
Well, look at what's going on. They want to bring back the guillotines, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
Revelation 20, verse 4 stated that those martyrs who stood up against the Antichrist and refused to take his mark were all beheaded.
Mm-hmm.
You can only behead someone in one of two ways, the sword or the guillotine.
That's right.
Guillotines is still the most cost-effective method of execution. All you have to do is raise the blade and drop it. If it gets a little dull, sharpen it. There it is.
Yep. Wow.
So this is why we see what's going on now. We look into the past. We look into the Illuminati's puppets, Stalin, Lenin, Hitler, and again, as it says, I've got a whole list. Hitler, and, well, bring it to the present. The next name, well, it's Obama.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you see, like in our immediate future, like say for the rest of Obama's term as president? What do you see happening after that?
Well, I wish the people would rise up and impeach him, but I don't know if the people have got that much backbone left.
Yeah.
I really don't. The spirit of Americana, I mean the true spirit of what made us the greatest nation in the world, has been taking a beating. And I don't know if there's enough left. But according to the timetables, there's a number of different timetables in the Illuminati that I started learning back in 1970. One table in particular, I'll never forget what I read. Now, they didn't choose the nation at the time because it's been almost 45 years ago. I read that. But according to that timetable, it said between the years 2014 and 2018, they would cause financial disaster in one nation of the world. This financial disaster would be so great and so crippling that it would cause other nations of the world to come together for the first time, sit down and discuss creating a one world global currency so this would never ever happen to anyone again.
Oh, wow.
That's the next thing that's supposed to happen according to their timeline.
Do you think that's going to be America?
I don't know. As I said, there was no name put down at that time. Wow. But all I know is, well, let's look at Greece, Spain.
Yeah.
France is going the same way. England, unless they get their act straight, is headed for the same way. I know Portugal is headed in that direction. I mean, for goodness sakes, people. It's actually happening. It really is happening. But there is a way out, and I wish people would learn the lesson from Iceland. Iceland did the one thing I've been telling people to do: kick out the Federal Reserve. Kick it out. And they did. Not only did they kick them out, but they said, and we don't owe you a penny on any of that false money you printed. And right now, Iceland is actually thriving.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Get rid of the Federal Reserve. It's illegal according to our Constitution. Only Congress has the authority to coin money. They're the only ones.
Wow.
It's Congress. It's not, the president. It's not, the legislative branch. It's Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, but we were betrayed. 1913. Let's
Wow.
find the Federal Reserve Act. No? That was Wilson.
Huh.
Yeah. Coincidence or not that it was Wilson? I think not.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? But, this is what's going on. And you know why now.
Wow. Yeah, that is intense. I think my mind is officially blown.
Well, you have to remember, I've been out of the Illuminati for 35 years and been fighting them and their plans. I was one of them for 20 years. So I've got 55 years worth of practical experience on you right now. I've been doing this for a little while.
Well, praise God for that. I mean, the world needs it. The world needs, if anything, needs more people like you out there that are able to see this stuff and be able to separate the real information from the disinformation and get it out to the rest of us. That's why I love being able to do shows like this.
Well, I can only do what I can and let the good Lord take care of the rest.
Amen to that.
But I just wish my family, my brothers and sisters, would wake up and realize this is a spiritual battle. It's happening on a physical plane, on a physical planet called the Earth. And very soon, that Antichrist person, whoever he may be, is going to rise up in power. And we've got to be about our Father's business and get as many saved before then. We have to teach the people out there the truth of what's going on, and Lord willing, that will lead them to salvation. But we can't do it unless our brothers and sisters are involved. I mean, for goodness sake, let's think about this, Josh, and apply common sense. There's only one group of people that was given all power and authority under God to accomplish these things. And it certainly wasn't those people who practicing Satanism.
That's right.
It's the people who are Christian by the definition of what the Bible says a Christian is. Mm-hmm. And I don't care for all these denominational titles. That's not what makes a Christian a Christian. Do you know, that was one of the most brilliant strokes of genius Satan has ever had to destroy the church, was to create denominational titles.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You see, if you belong to this group, you can't come over here. This is our group. Or, well, you have that title. Well, you're wrong. You don't understand the truth because we have this title. We know that. You know what? I don't take those silly titles.
That's
because they're meaningless to me. I am, by definition, a Christian, and that's it. I am not, a Mormon, a Baptist, a Jehovah's Witness, a Catholic, a Seventh-day Adventist. I am none of those things because God said in Antioch we were first called Christians.
That's right.
And that's what I strive to be every day. Do I make it all the time? Nope. I'm still a sinner saved by grace. But I'm certainly not going to sit on my salvation and do nothing for the cause of Christ. Christians are supposed to be up on their feet doing something. I don't care what a person does so long as they're doing something for the Lord. And I know there are sick people and elderly people out there who can't get up and do what you and I can do now, though their hearts wish they could. But they can still pray, can't they?
That's right.
Prayers brought down the walls of Jericho.
Yeah.
Faith, the prayers can move a mountain, for goodness sakes. If you can do nothing, then pray. That causes miracles to happen.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot to say. But do something, people. Don't sit in your blessed assurances and just, be pew warmers or stand in your little comfort zones and sing Kumbaya on Saturday or Sunday and get your fix. so you can live like
Yeah.
the devil for the rest of the week.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're supposed to be trying to live a life for Christ and trying to do something for His sake.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and we shouldn't be spending our time fighting with our brothers and sisters instead of fighting against the true enemy. There is so much division in the church today. I mean, even the rise of division in the church, even from 10 years ago, is just astronomical.
Terrific, because people want to be taught the fuzzy-wuzzy Bible, the make-me-feel-good Bible, the prosperity movement, but don't give me the truth.
Yep.
No? Let's face it, truth isn't popular. It never has been, never will be. Look at what they did to the person, the source of all truth. They crucified.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
No? And doesn't Revelation chapter 3 tell us the seventh church, the Laodicean church, the vast majority of Christians would be lukewarm at best?
Yeah.
God help those people, because think about this. Let me ask you a question. What if your own father, Josh, was to walk up to you right now, look you in the eye and say, "You're no good to me"? How would you feel? How would you feel if your own father did that to you?
I know exactly what you mean.
Well, think about this now. In Revelation chapter 3, those Christians who are lukewarm, they're fence walkers, they won't commit to the left or right side. Christ says, "I will spit you out of my mouth because you are no good to me." What is the God of all the creation, of all the universe, of everything that there is, looked you in the eye and said, "You are no good to me"?
Oh, wow. Yeah, can you imagine that?
Yeah. This is the type of Christians God warned us about in the last church age that would be the plague upon His people. And
Right.
I can mean a plague. Because we are in, as I said, a spiritual battle.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no excuse for any of His children to be misbehaving and pretending as if everything's okay and not get involved in the spiritual battle that's been going on since the fall of Satan.
That's right.
There's no excuse whatsoever. And when I see all those lying, conniving, God forgive me, the vast majority of televangelists, policing instead of feeding the children of God if you want to scream. And I mean the Joe Lowensteins, the Rick Warrens, the Creflo Dollar, all that lot.
Oh, yeah,
and I
Kenneth
don't care
Copeland.
if you like them or not, or if you put them on a pedestal, because you are in grave error, because you are supposed to be putting Christ on a pedestal and not a human being.
That's right.
God forgive you if you've been doing that, folks, because they, human beings, are so easily capable and have led I don't know how many millions of people astray, but Christ Himself will never do that to you.
That's right.
You're supposed to put Him on the pedestal, ladies and gentlemen, and no one else.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, those people won't even preach about repentance or anything like that. And
They're not
that's
even preaching the prophecies anymore. How are these people going to, be prepared for what's coming if they don't know the prophecies of the scriptures?
Yep.
I mean,
yep.
I've heard so many people from so many different congregations tell me, well, their pastor said, well, those were for those days and age, or, well, we don't teach them because we don't want to scare the people.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I don't care if you're afraid of scaring the people or not. If God put it there, you're supposed to be preaching about it.
That's right. We're not supposed to censor the Bible. I had somebody tell me, and this was a person that was up in the church. He actually he wasn't the pastor, but he worked for actually was in the church. But he actually I was trying to talk to him about some prophecy stuff, and he actually told me, well, Revelation and all that, it's not we don't really have to read it because we're not going to be here anyway. Oh,
that's another
knife
one
in my heart.
You want to pull out my hair.
Yep.
We're not going to be here anyway, so what bother to teach about it? Excuse me. If we don't teach about it, how are we going to be prepared for what's coming?
Exactly. Exactly. I think a lot of times there's this view in the church that like everything's going to be all peachy and rosy until the rapture, and then we're going to be gone, we'll be fine, but then everybody else on earth, well, who cares about them? They don't stop and think and realize we're going to have to go through some stuff even before the rapture. Like even if you're the most pre-trib of pre-trib, and I'm personally pre-trib. That's what I lean towards, but we're still going to. Yeah, we're still going to have to go through some stuff.
Exactly. What's going to happen to us, or how much is going to happen to us, I don't know. Folks, if I don't know, here. I'm not going to make it up. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know.
Same here.
We do know one thing's certain, that even in these dark and troublesome days that you and I must live through, Josh, Christ himself promised he would gather a remnant.
Mm-hmm.
And I have seen for about 5-7 years now, a remnant being brought together. It's in it's in its infancy. I see it already forming. How many will be part of this remnant? I don't know. Again, I don't know. But I do see the promise of a prophecy coming to pass. That the remnant, those children of God that are willing to make a last-ditch effort and stand between the gap, they're coming together. Which can only tell me that the final prophecies are coming to pass.
Right.
That once they are concluded, the rapture will hit, and the entire age of Christianity will come to an end. There will no longer be a Christian church era. It will be over.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, there's a new age. But that age is given over to Satan. And it will be given over to him for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And has God abandoned his children on the earth? Will God just say, hey, tough luck, you missed out? No.
Oh, of course not.
No. We find out people will be saved during the tribulation period.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fact. But those are the ones that decided, well, we're going to go our own path, and they found out it's not too good of a path, is it?
Right.
They'll be saved, but now they're going to have to go through 7 years if they are allowed to live that long.
Right.
Because we know that there's going to be huge martyrdom, and there's going to be a hunt for any Jewish person. God help them all. Because the Jewish people are the ones who's going to recognize when the Antichrist has the nerve to sit into the rebuilt third temple and proclaim himself to be God. They'll recognize this is not the promised Messiah, and they'll realize at that moment they missed the Messiah. And that's when the hand of God that's been heavily upon them ever since they rejected Christ will finally be lifted. And as a whole, I'm not saying everyone, but symbolically speaking, as a whole, they'll be able to get saved.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But you and I think we're going to see a lot of dark and troublesome times, more so than we're living in now.
Yeah, I believe so too.
How bad it's going to be, I don't know, but I can tell you right now, the pieces are in play. The concentration camps are up. I mean, let's think about this. You don't put 1,000 concentration camps in America, if you're not fighting someone, unless you're planning to cause a war.
Yep.
That war is going to be upon you, me, and anyone else who dare stand up against them.
Yeah.
The guillotines, they're bringing them back. The collapsing economies around the world, this is another sure sign that things are escalating. Look at the trouble in Israel right now. People, if you learn nothing from me, learn that history revolves around Israel.
Absolutely.
Whatever happens to Israel, you better watch for the rest of the world afterwards. I mean, the Abrahamic covenant is still in force. I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curseth thee, and in thee shall all nations of the earth be blessed.
Yep.
If Obama, and according to his last warning, he said, unless Israel makes these peace agreements, we will no longer be able to protect them.
Oh, geez.
If we betray Israel, our doom has been sealed.
That's
There's
right.
no nation that's ever betrayed Israel that's survived. Look at recently what happened to Great Britain. I'm from England. It's been the most powerful of all nations that have existed. No one controlled the size of the earth or the population of the people that Great Britain did. I mean,
Yep.
and I mean, you know that old saying, "The sun never sets on the British Empire."
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's because wherever the earth traversed the planet, there was always a nation that belonged to Great Britain that the sun was shining on.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much territory England had control. At one time, I think it was 50% of the world's population was under the British crown.
Wow.
We're talking a feat that's never been done in human history. And yet, when England betrayed Israel, England's sovereignty went down the tubes.
Yep.
Now England is just a shadow of its former glory.
Yeah.
Why? Because they did not heed the Abrahamic covenant. I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curseth thee. Learn the lessons of the Bible, people. God was not kidding.
That's right.
Well, so that's basically all I have to say about our topic for tonight. As I said, in order to understand today, what's going on today, we had to go into the past so we could understand tomorrow.
Wow. What a fascinating message.
Well, I can only pray it all made sense because there was a lot to digest.
Yeah, but that's a good thing though. That I can probably only speak for myself here, but I know for me, you've probably provoked hours and hours worth of research in my near future, and I would hope so for the listeners.
Save you the work, Josh, because you see, I've already. Before I even made this into a presentation, I had already decided I was going to make this into a DVD.
Oh, tell us about that.
Oh yes, I'm going to expand upon it. I mean, let's be real. There's only so much you can do in a live presentation, be it an hour or two, or on the radio if it's 2-3 hours. No, I can do so much more by turning something like this into a DVD where I can really get into the nitty-gritty of it and just tear every little dot and tittle about the Illuminati out of it.
Absolutely.
You know, and as a matter of fact, it is going to be called Dictators of the Illuminati.
Awesome. I can't wait for that to come out.
Well, once I'm done with the Florida Prophecy Summit, I told you it's being done under Prophecy in the News. Once I'm done that, I've only got one more commitment immediately. I'll have to come home. I've got about a week, and I have to be in Waterflow, New Mexico. Then after that, I'll have, I don't think I have any other place to be, but you never know what is going to happen between now and then. In theory, I'll have the time I'll need to actually sit down and, transmogrify all this into the DVD I want it to be.
Wow. That's going to be amazing.
And Lord willing, I might have it it might be ready for release by July, but I don't know right now. But let's just say, Lord willing, that's the plan, and it'll work.
Well, if it's out by July, I know what I'll be asking my wife for my birthday.
Well, tell her right now, that the new DVD, False Flag of Abortion, should be coming out at the end of the month. And anyone who's on the mailing list, they will receive the notification that it's ready.
Oh, fantastic. And, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, you see, because when anyone goes to the website, they'll see a taskbar on the left-hand side, and they just scroll all the way down and just click on, mailing list. Just put in, the quick information, and there it is. You'll get all the announcements, everything. And the website itself, it's free to anyone who wants to go through it. I am constant. I mean, every day I'm updating it, putting new articles and everything, what's going on in Israel right now. Heaven help us, what's going on in our own country right now. We've got a wide variety of different topics and everything. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been on the website myself, and it could easily spend hours just getting lost in the vast amount of information that's there. It's fantastic.
Well, as I said, I update it every day. I try to keep everything as updated as I can.
And for those who may not have caught it the first time around, what is your website again, and how can people, if they want to find out more about you or get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Okay. Well, the website, it's www. Now this is all lowercase, no apostrophes. www. It's a God Thing Productions 777.com. Now it's a God Thing Productions 777.com. Or you can find me on Facebook. Just, send me a friend's request, Doc Marquis. Email address, easiest one to reach me through would be docmarquis777.com. Or you can call me. Don't call me after the radio show. It's not going to happen, folks. It's too late here. And the best time is to try to reach me after 12 o'clock on any given day, because at that point I should be done, Lord willing, with the emails. You see, I average about 300 emails a day. And
oh, wow.
It takes me a while to go through it all. So,
and you're in Central Time, right?
Yes, Central Standard Time. Anytime after 12. Call me at 402-228-9476. And if you can't remember that, folks, just call up Josh.
Yeah, I'll put I'll put your phone number in the show notes as well. I gotta say, I think that's the first time that I've had a guest actually give out their phone number. That's really that's really awesome of you.
Well, people have questions, they're looking, and they're looking for the answers. And I'm not going to be one of those people who sits in a white tower, and thinking he's all that in a bag of chips. Excuse me, people, I'm just a sinner. I'm saved by the grace of God, and there's nothing special here. There isn't. So make nothing of me. I'm serious, folks. This is, if you don't believe me, live with me for a day. I can prove it. But, no. People have questions. They're looking for answers. Now, I'm more than willing to give them, the knowledge I possess. And if I don't know it, folks, guess what? The answer is I don't know.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. That's the same thing that I hold to. I'm sure I know I don't get nearly as many emails or Facebook messages as you do, but that's the same reason I have my phone number up on Facebook as well. It's the same thing. I don't know it all, but maybe maybe there's something that God's revealed to me that can help somebody else, and of course I'd want it. That's what I'm here for. I want to spend my time doing that and helping where I can. So I can really identify with that, and that's great. Awesome. Well, I think if you said everything that you you came here to say, I think you said that you did. I can't thank you enough for being on the show and for giving us this message, and it has been a blast, having you on the show.
Well, Josh, it's been my pleasure. I'm always so grateful for any opportunity to where I can put the truth out there, to my brothers and sisters, and hopefully, Lord willing, to those people who's not saved. Because this is what's going to make the difference. We have to let the truth get out there by any means. We have to let the people know what's going on, because we're not going to hear it from CNN or MSNBC or any of the newspapers, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's why shows such as yours and others, it is so critical and so vital in this day and age especially, because this is what it's going to come down to. These are going to be our only venues. Who knows how long that'll last, where we can keep the truth out, because let's face it, let's look what the FCC try to do. They just try to, put their own people to monitor newspapers, shows like Fox News and others, Well, we want to see how you're determining what's important news, and if you're giving a fair or balanced approach to opposite opinions. Excuse me? That's called, censorship and control of the media, which is against the Constitution.
That's right. Yep.
What do I know? Can't believe that they tried that. And God bless those people who have the nerve to stand up. The government calls them whistleblowers. I call them truth tellers.
Yeah, absolutely.
They will
we
for the truth and tell it for what it is. I mean, let's look at what's happened with the NSA. Oh my goodness! If it wasn't for the fact that we had that Snowden guy, some people hail him a hero, some call him a traitor. I think he's a hero. Because if he didn't stand up and say what was going on, it would still be going on. We would never have known that we've been spied upon since, at least, according to those NSA, PRISM slides I was telling you about, at least all the way back to 2006.
That's right. Wow. Yeah, we need more people out there like that who have access to the truth and are willing to put, their own safety or credentials at risk to get it out to the rest of us.
And oh my goodness, I can't believe that. See, this is wrong. Let's face it. The government is supposed to be answering to the people, not the other way around. And when a people begins to fear their own government, then they've got to fix it or dissolve it and put something better in.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be afraid of the government yet. When any of us dare stand up and speak out against them, oh, look out, here comes the almighty IRS.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what they did to those people who had Tea Party when they were trying to, in their names, when they were trying to get a 501c4 tax status.
Uh-huh.
I mean, no. This government is out of control. It's running away. It's a train that's going to crash. And it's going to crash worse than Obamacare unless we elect the right people and put them in.
That's right.
That's what it comes down to.
I couldn't agree with you more. Wow. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, I just happened to have looked down at my clock, and we've got about 1 minute left.
Oh,
well, hey,
perfect timing.
3 hours was about up.
Well, like I said, I kept all of tonight open, and I figured we'd probably figure at least 3 hours, and if we went long, we could have gone long. But yeah, that works out perfect because I can split this up into 2 episodes. So great. That's awesome.
Oh my goodness, I'm an episode now.
Absolutely. Well, again, I cannot thank you enough for being on the show. This has been a blast, and we're gonna have to we're going to have you on again sometime.
And I promise I won't make it this deep or detailed. I promise I'll go easy on everyone the next time.
Oh, that's all right.
They call you in and say, give us more of the dark details and all this. Okay, fine. Hey, people, I'll give you, the 808s. I just figured you might want to break and just get the 202 or 303 stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's just in the 3 hours that we've done, it's a wealth of information, and yeah, if I know my listeners, the ones that keep in contact with me, I think they're really going to get a lot out of this, and thank you again.
Well, keep in contact with me, Josh, and let me know what they say, okay?
Absolutely, will do.
Okay, well, Josh, you take care of yourself, and God bless and keep you and everyone who listens to this.
Oh, thank you so much. God bless you too.
Okay,
well, that was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. What?
I was about to say, okay, you just take care now.
All right. Talk to you later. All right. That was Doc Marquis with his Dictators of the Illuminati message. Again, in case you may have missed it, the 3 or 4 times we said it. His website again is www.itsagodthingproductions777.com. All lowercase, no apostrophes. The 7s are the number 7s, not the word. And I'll have that link in the show notes. Also, if you want to contact Doc, his email is docmarquis777@yahoo.com, and he has also graciously given his phone number to those of you who would like to talk to him personally. 1-402-228-9476. So again, that was Doc Marquis. I highly suggest you check out his materials. The small amount I've been able to look through of his vast library of information has been truly edifying and enlightening, and there's a lot of good stuff there, so you can't go wrong. So with that, I will say thank you for listening. This is The Sharpening, and I am your host, Josh Peck. And as always, take care, and God bless.